Made it, just in time. I bumped into him wandering. Welcome to the Tibet Center, here at 151 West 30th Street, third floor. We're here every Monday evening, and on Wednesday evenings we have class in South Orange, New Jersey. And every other Saturday we have a White Tara Puja in South Orange, New Jersey, which you are all welcome to. So we shall begin this evening by reciting the prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems, and with the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. And for all the people living there, together with their near ones who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dhamma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we had hoped and wished. Now the Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharma called profound illumination. And at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, "How should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge?" And Avalokiteshvara answered, "Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form, and form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus, all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the Bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge. And since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear, they transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, truly complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, For there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed. Tadyata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangate. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva, Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One rose from that samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family. Profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as we were taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering and the world with its gods, humans, asuras and gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. Now we generate bodhicitta. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So let us do one rosary of Om Mani Padme Hum. And I keep saying, while reciting, we should think about compassion, the wish to remove the suffering of all sentient beings. But think about these three verses that we've just recited. You can read them over while you're reciting Om Mani Padme Hum, but they really contain the essence of the Mahayana path, the cultivation of taking refuge, cultivation of compassion, love, and the assuming of bodhicitta, and then the devotion to remain to help sentient beings. So think about these as you're reciting Om Mani Padme Hum. So we'll do one Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. So, we've been discussing Beyond Religion, Ethics for a Whole World by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And we had reached, I think, page 130. So, last week we were discussing the way to deal with challenges to patients in everyday life. And I mentioned the challenges that living in India provides, such as when you wait in line at the bank, people cut in front of you, these opportunities to practice patience. Taking an auto rickshaw and having the person ask for twice, 3 times as much as the cost of the ride, and the little ways by which we can deal with those challenges to our patients. And when we engage in lojong, in mind training exercises, we're meant to actually arrive at a point where we wish for challenges that we can use to work on ourselves, opportunities to practice patience, opportunities to practice generosity, opportunities to practice perseverance, whatever it is that these challenges provoke, can be taken. We shouldn't think that these are in themselves good things coming along. There's a neutrality about them. We can make use of them in a spiritually beneficial way. However, I know that I can go to the bank in India and I can say to myself, this is going to be challenging. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to let the people go in front of me when they push. I'm preparing myself for this challenging situation, so that when I go into the bank and I stand in line, and when I'm getting close, I've been waiting 10, 15 minutes, I'm getting close to when the person cuts in front of me, I'm going to smile and I'm going to say, please, go ahead. So that's not so easy to do, but we can do that. The trouble with that is that if we have prepared ourselves to that extent, then that's no longer the challenge. It's when the person comes and insults me, or steps on my foot, or pushes me aside, and that I'm not ready for. So we have to think that this is not a test or a practice that we master. It always gets more difficult, and we should think of it that way. We should prepare ourselves for the fact that the bar keeps going up. It's not that we can get it down and life becomes a breeze. No, we have to think of it as being a series of more difficult steps. Once we've mastered these sort of lower level practices, they will naturally get more difficult. So do be ready. So one of the ways, when I say do be ready, on page 131, His Holiness says, we should remember that emotional awareness will only develop gradually with patience and perseverance. And so we have to approach these practices of developing patience, developing our ability to deal with, to deal with the challenges of life. We have to approach these with patience, with perseverance, with an understanding that we really have to work on ourselves over a long period of time. So, anger. Anger is a good one because I think we all, most of us, it's marvelous to look out and everyone is sort of there. So we should familiarize ourselves with the way in which we react when we are provoked. And we should familiarize ourselves with the emotion that we feel at the provocation. The way in which we react, the sort of visceral quality of our reaction. Because the more we recognize that, it is at that very initial instance of a physical or physically emotional reaction that we have to catch ourselves. Now, as we go through life, when we are provoked, unless we have really worked at this, we're going to react. We're going to get angry. We are going to explode, or the provocation will get us. So we have to develop this mastery over the emotional process that we go through when provoked, to the point that it doesn't overwhelm us, to the point that we can actually deflate the provocation and take it in our stride. Now that's not something that we can do, as I've said many times. It's not something we can do at the moment that we are provoked. It's something that we have to really work at, so that we develop a familiarity with the raw emotional sensations that we feel when provoked. But that we have to do not when we are provoked. We have to do in preparation. So, starting on 130, attentiveness to emotional experience is very beneficial, but at first it is surprisingly difficult to achieve. In fact, trying to identify emotions at the moment they arise may initially seem impossible. In large part, this is because they're simply so swift, and in a split second, when powerful emotion arises in us, it seems to occupy all of our consciousness. As a result, the process by which they unfold remains opaque to us. Such difficulties are natural and should not make us feel dejected or discouraged. Instead, we should remember that emotional awareness will only develop gradually with patient perseverance. For this reason, we cannot begin by tackling our emotions directly, but have to start by focusing on their outward manifestations in our behavior. In this context, it's helpful to consider the onset of destructive emotion as a kind of causal chain which starts with an external stimulus and ends with our behavioral response. The aim of emotional awareness is to bring our attention or mindfulness into this split-second process and thereby to gain some control over it. So this is meditation. This is real meditation. This is the process by which we actually develop the ability to withstand challenges to our happiness. Imagine, for example, that a door slams. Next comes our physical perception of that stimulus through the faculties of hearing, sight, and perhaps touch. Initially, this is a purely physical event, not yet colored by interpretation. So the door slams, and we just hear it. We don't know, we have no, let's say, intellectual understanding of what's happening. We just hear the boom. But then, less than a millisecond later, comes the interpretation. Here, an element of projection or exaggeration is often involved. The split-second judgment, that's on our part, that so-and-so deliberately slammed the door as an insult, for example. Interpretation is very quickly followed by the emotional response, perhaps anger, annoyance, or irritation. Then, finally, also often very quickly comes our behavioral response. We say something or do something in retaliation. So this is, a process which we should analyze, we should think about, so that we recognize that initially we didn't have the anger. The anger came about not just because the door slammed, but we began to build a whole scenario around why the person slammed the door and what they were trying. All these things are what we construe to be the causes for legitimate anger on our part. Once we understand this causal chain, the aim is to interrupt its flow by, as it were, catching ourselves. So the whole point of this is that you cannot catch yourself unless you practice the process of catching yourself and bringing awareness into the process. Generally speaking, it is easiest to start near the end, between the emotional reaction and its behavioral expression. So the emotional reaction is that first moment when we hear the door slam and we have the emotional reaction of anger or frustration or whatever that someone has slammed the door. And the behavioral expression is when we permit ourselves to express anger as a result of that. Then, as we become more familiar with the process and our emotional awareness develops over time, we can work our way back along the causal chain with the ultimate goal of quelling or eliminating the afflictive emotion altogether. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Not so easy to do. I have a bird who drives me nuts. Every 20 days she lays eggs. So between the 25 days. So between the 20th day when she gives up the old eggs and the 25th day when she lays the new ones, she will not leave me alone. She constantly is flying. For the first 2 days I'm okay. By the third day, I'm ready to kill her. And I know I could just put her in a cage and close the door, but then she goes crazy. So I don't like to do that. So I let her out, and she drives me crazy.
Maybe she needs a
But it's very hard to break the cycle and just put her in a cage and leave.
I made an observation that maybe she needs a companion of her own species that she can.
I can't hear you.
Maybe she needs a companion of her own species.
Oh no. No baby birds.
Let those eggs hatch.
What kind of bird is it?
And,
A dove.
In the house? Okay.
then the third one, I lose it. And it's very disturbing to me and to her. I don't know where. She keeps coming and coming and coming.
Gosh, Charlie, does anyone have advice for Charlie? Because I think this is a tough one.
I do have a question. When I was a child, I had a parakeet who began to lay eggs. Do you leave the egg for her to sit on? Or do you remove it?
Eggs full.
I can't hear what you're saying.
Okay, I'll speak louder. Do
What?
you leave the egg for her to sit on, or do you remove it?
Oh, no, she sits on it.
She sits on the eggs.
Even though they don't hatch?
Get her a chair.
What if you remove the egg so she isn't sitting on it?
Then she's very unhappy.
Yeah, she might be upset.
Well, you have a built-in teacher of patience, but the trouble is,
She's winning. I do recognize her as a real teacher, and it's a struggle that I'm engaged in. So I'm aware, that emotional awareness that's spoken of. I am aware of that, but it still builds and builds and builds.
so she flies at you, or is it just the noise? Okay, anyone else?
Put something on.
I'm assuming she's a dove like the mourning doves in the neighborhood?
Well, she's a different variety,
I can't hear you.
Different variety. All right,
So we're
we're going to let Charlie deal with his doves.
We're not going to release her out into the backyard to hang out.
No. He's keeping his teacher of patience with him.
Very good.
Hitchcock of New York.
So, no, but this whole thing of analyzing the process by which we are emotionally provoked by incidences. You have no comments.
Well, I was just like coming in from the elevator, and I heard when you guys were reading the prayers, but I think I heard Tony's voice. So automatically, like I'm thinking all these like different things. That, oh, how come he's here? And then when I look in, he's really here. And then
Still around.
And then I thought, oh no, he got here. Is he okay? I hope he's like, I mean, like the process of how the brain is, like we're making all these stories that we don't even know the truth yet, right? Maybe we're thinking, oh, maybe he drove here, maybe he got here, and is he okay? And like it's very interesting how our brain works. I mean, luckily this is like a neutral thing. Like if Tony is someone that I don't like, automatically I think my brain will like, like things are really bad, right? Yeah. It's interesting, like, I caught myself like, how come I'm thinking all this like things already in my mind? I only hear his voice a little bit. And then when I see him, and then my brain's like going even more and more.
So use that, you recognize that. When you, let's say you see someone whom you're afraid of, or you're angry at, or whatever, you try to see the way in which you initially physically, emotionally react when you see that person who provokes such an emotion. Because it's by recognizing that emotional or physical reaction that you can, when you see that pop up at some point, you say, oh, that's the beginning of anger, and I have to control that. We have to develop a recognition of that so that we can develop control over our tendency to get angry.
Yeah, but
you know, I know that when I see my mind is like, you know, moving to the negative direction, right?
Mhm.
And I know that, oh no, this is wrong. I shouldn't think in that way. I shouldn't think in this way or something like that, right?
Mhm.
But this mind is still moving on, going on, going on, going on. And then later I in ignorance, already forgot about that scene, right? But all of a sudden, and then something, oh, maybe, you know, that person was like that. You know, it's still thinking that inside, you know? So I have to like constantly antidote. When
Yeah.
they come up, I
Yeah.
have to constantly antidote. Yeah.
And we have to do the same thing when we see ourselves pulled towards some object of attraction. I mean, it might be our phone, it might be, you know, whatever, some little distraction. You have to just see the way in which you react to that. I mean, I think that actually, why don't we talk about this? Because I think it's a challenge that people at this time in history really have, the phone.
The camera.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to that. I spent quite a bit of time going to Connecticut and New York on the train. And sometimes I hear a loud noise. What the heck is that? And then it turns out that someone has dropped their phone on the floor, making this racket. And then so the next time I'm just annoyed. It's not like I'm really angry, but I'm annoyed. And so perhaps I can be detached enough to observe this kind of thing. And then, so the next time I see somebody come on the train with a telephone, God, I hope that person, first of all, doesn't come sit next to me. And then also that this person isn't going to drop the phone or talk loudly or telephone or all these things. And so I guess this is the projection thing. I can see how that works. And
So
You
Leslie,
have to hear it on
don't
the
drop
subway.
your don't drop your phone.
Not all the phones at once.
No, but all right. It's rather interesting that Junichi has come up with a
Fully phone.
other people's phones. The real challenge in the 21st century seems to be how we master the attraction to our own phones. How, when drawn to it, we say, and
I do that actually. I try to not, you know, because I see so many people and they're looking at, all they're doing is looking at the phone. And I think, no, I don't want to be like that. And so sometimes, but it's hard. Sometimes you get and it's easy that you can look up something, you know, just Google something, you're wondering, gee, what was that? And then you get involved in this. Or sometimes I get bored and gosh, it's, you know, how many more stations? And then so maybe I'll, you know, do something and take my mind off it. And so it goes to telephone.
so I think that what I'm suggesting is that we should really watch the process, the mental process by which we get sucked into indulging in our phones, and learn the ability to hold ourselves back. Yes, Charlie.
When you say we need to control our emotions, what do you mean exactly by control?
I mean, develop the muscle by which we refrain from indulging in, you know, going off in a phone tangent.
So you don't mean just suppressing it, I mean, grabbing hold of it and changing it.
So I mean, you're putting your finger on there's an interesting thing. Initially, we have to sort of do this to the mind. We have to do this to the mind well enough and in a profound enough way so that eventually that tendency is
Withered?
is supplanted by a positive.
Yes.
We're not just holding back. We have a positive. Yes, ma'am.
So in the month of January and in the month of September, the last couple of years, there's an art making challenge that you have to make an original piece of art every day for the entire month and post it. And then you might win an easel to paint plein air. And September and this past January, I did that every day. And then February came and I no longer had that challenge, and I went back to coming home, lying down, looking at my phone, and the evening goes. And just recently, I've supplanted it. I have some small painting projects that I want to do, not for someone else's challenge, but self-generated. And I'm able to not lie there and waste the entire evening on my phone. But I had to come up with a specific idea of making something to give in order to take it away.
So I'm suggesting that in addition to simply, not simply, I shouldn't put it that way, coming up with an alternative pastime, if you like. I don't.
No, it's totally fine. It all goes in the dumpster, so it's
Actually analyzing the process by which we get sucked into spending all that time with the phone. Analyzing the really moment by moment. Here we're dealing with addiction. I mean, it truly is, yeah. And we have to really learn to catch ourselves, to watch the process by which we become overwhelmed by the addiction. Catch ourselves before that.
like to open the phone, check the email, check whatever, and then put it away. At least for an hour.
But
Right.
what I'm saying here, what we're talking about is watching the steps that the mind goes through from when we are perfectly happy doing whatever we're doing to when we say, oh, let me
Engaged.
yeah, and see that process so that we can, and we have to think about this when we're not dealing with a phone. We think about it so that we become more and more familiar with that process. Now, I'm not saying this is going to work, but this is what we're talking about here. And it's an all-pervasive challenge. So, catching us. Thus, our initial effort should be directed towards ensuring that our destructive emotional responses do not translate into physical or verbal action. The idea is to catch ourselves before we start exploding or indulging or whatever, and to exercise restraint. This reminds me of, so here's the example that the story of Ben Kungyal, a former robber turned spiritual teacher. One day while Ben Kungyal was visiting someone's house, his host left him alone. Since he was so habituated to stealing, his right hand instinctively reached out to take something. At that very instant, he caught himself literally grabbing his right arm with his left and screamed, "There is a thief! There is a thief!" So this is the story that we're all taught in Lam Rim. And it's a wonderful expression of how we are meant to, the sort of innocent, raw, humble way in which we have to honestly catch ourselves from indulging in whatever the attraction is, whatever the indulgence is. We have to just grab ourselves and shout, thief, or whatever. To help us learn to catch ourselves, it is useful to become familiar with the ways in which our destructive emotional experiences affect us physically. Here, so this is recognizing the actual physical effect that we experience. For example, what does it feel like when you first become annoyed? Does your heartbeat change? Do you feel any tightening in the face? Is there any tension in your arms or shoulders? Or what do you feel when you first encounter a sight that disgusts you? Is there any tensing of muscles? Then again, what sensation accompany feelings of jealousy or envy? Perhaps you feel these in your stomach or in your chest. So really recognizing the physical reaction that we experience, because by recognizing that, by actually focusing on that, then when we see that arising, we say, I'm beginning to feel jealous or envious. And then we apply the countermeasures to that. As well as learning to recognize the physical manifestations of our emotions, we can try to observe our physical and mental responses to these sensations. Do we act in a certain way, say certain things, have certain thoughts? Do we clutch at our foreheads or clench our fists? Perhaps we feel an urge to walk or to stand or maybe just to fidget. Does our voice change when we become agitated? Perhaps the sound becomes louder or shriller. Do words come quicker to our minds? If we're working or talking when such an emotion arises, how does the emotion affect our work or the content of what we're saying? So all of this is the process by which we develop mastery over ourselves, really honestly recognizing the emotional and then the physical reactions to certain situations. Paying attention to such details helps us familiarize ourselves with our emotional states, and with greater familiarity we gain greater control. Often the simple acts of detaching ourselves from these emotional states and examining them help them subside. So they say when you feel anger, become like a piece of wood. Isn't that Shantideva? When you feel that something is going to provoke your anger, just think of as you begin to feel these emotions, think, I must be like a piece of wood. And think that Shantideva is saying, you must be like a piece of wood. And catch yourselves in that way. What is the other? Yes, I think Shantideva also says, turn. Just that physical, it's not that the physical turning of the head is what necessarily helps you. It's the fact that you have recognized it and you have thought of turning your head. That process itself changes the dynamic, changes the degree to which you are overwhelmed by whatever it is that is provoking you.
It proves to you that you can change your situation. You're not encumbered by a reality that's static. That reality isn't there the way we think it is. So by doing this, you're acknowledging that you could do something about this claustrophobic feelings at the moment. on a little scale and on a grand scale. That's, yeah, he used to do that all the time. Someone's holding you down and you can't get up, he's beating you, you should at least clench your teeth and have the idea to get up. And we go like that, at least do that. So.
Yes.
That sort of makes me think of it kind of, possibly there might be an opposite kind of difficulty where some people feel these emotions, but somehow are not able to express them in any way, and they're repressed, and they don't come out. And then the other thing.
And you're saying he's diffusing it.
Almost.
Is that what you're saying? The people that do that or clench the teeth, they're diffusing that situation somewhat by like it's an expression?
No, I think it's not even deliberately diffusing the situation. I think it's just an inability to express whether that's good. It's not, you see, it's not a conscious effort to control something that's harmful. It's just the.
He's saying that you can't do anything physically, but at least you have the mentality to express counterforce to that. You can't, you're pinned down, but you're not accepting it. Anyway, I want something like that. I think that's his point. I don't know.
I was going to also, this is maybe reverse, but looking at this emotion, no, from the opposite standpoint, instead of observing our behavior when we have certain emotions, what if you're an actor and you're trying to embody, you're trying to express, you know, somebody tightens up,
Yeah.
even though the actors doesn't, or I don't know enough about acting to really say this, but is it the method that you're supposed to really think that you're the person?
Stanislavski,
And you're really angry.
I don't know. His Holiness asked Richard Gere, do you really get angry when you're, you know? And he said, yeah, when you're acting, you really bring up real anger. I think he said yes, right? Yeah.
A little bit. You
Yeah.
have to. So, but what is your? So, in a sense, yes. When we sit and when we are contemplating the process that we go through when provoked, at that point we should really work towards feeling that process. So we're sitting on our bed in the morning doing our morning meditation, and we are going through the process of being provoked, and we are imagining the sensations that we feel. So we are, in a sense, indulging in that method acting process to recognize what getting angry or getting provoked is, so that we can catch ourselves when we're actually provoked. Yeah.
It's like a rehearsal.
It's like a rehearsal. Yeah. And we have to do a lot of rehearsing to master it, to refrain from.
It's really great. I think it's great that, I mean, first of all, I was going to say it makes me feel good that these like great teachers are talking about this stuff, right? About ways to counter it and stuff, because it's like, yeah, you know, it makes me feel like I'm not the only one. You know, if all these guys are talking about this stuff so much, it's like, you know, it's hard. But it's also, yeah, it's like, because what do? We tend to say, oh yeah, I'm going to try not to get angry. I'm going to try not to get angry anymore. You know, I read this text, and yeah, that's a good thing. I won't do it anymore. But then it's like in the moment that goes out the window. That's kind of what you said at the beginning. Especially also, I don't know how much it talks about this in teachings, but for me, it's also like if I'm hungry, you know, hangry, as we said. That's a big factor. You know, to the point where my wife and kids will sometimes be like, you need to eat, it's like, and I'm like, no, it's like, what are you like? And then like 5 minutes after I've eaten, they're like, you're like a different person. So I think, yeah, I always carry a Snickers with me. But I think that's more true for some people than others, I think some people are more sensitive to that than other people, but anyway, but it's just like this idea of rehearsing, I guess, in this kind of, either in meditation or analytical meditation, or just when you're setting your motivation for the day. I'm actually glad we're talking about it, because I think that's a thing that sounds like it would be more effective than just, wishing to not get angry.
So, what we're talking about is, I think, more important than tantric meditations that people want to engage in, and all the sort of fancy stuff. This is the real sort of nitty-gritty practice that we have to engage in to become happier. I'm agreeing with you. And Snickers help, I suppose.
Hunger is big. You're easily provoked when you're hungry. The bird probably bubbles in Norway. Or it's tired, or it's a bad day and everything is coming at you. This is another one.
The bird should say, "Eat, Charlie."
Chocolate.
Charlie wants a cracker, isn't it?
I'll make you one.
No. You want to?
Well, actually, I want to say, for myself, in the very beginning, I thought it's not too bad. I can control my anger. But then I realized, first time maybe I could, second time maybe it's okay. But then later on, it gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
Now it's just so hard.
I don't know how you do with a room full of kids. Second grade, right?
And you know them better and better.
So, once you become quite familiar with this process and begin to have a measure of success in restraining your behavioral responses, you can then move one step back along the causal chain and try to prevent the emotion itself from reaching an explosive stage. In other words, you can learn to calm yourself the moment you become aware of the onset of the strong emotion. So that's what we're working towards. Doing this may involve, for example, taking several deep breaths, or it may involve simply diverting your mind from the source of irritation, and it may involve having something to eat, or you may be able to view a given situation in a more positive light, as in the example of the Palestinian youth who learned to see the image of God in the faces of the soldiers at Israeli checkpoints. Sometimes, even if the actual situation is tragic, looking at it in the context of its multiple causes and conditions can help diffuse strong negative emotional reactions. It is also helpful to view the situation from different angles or perspectives, so that what looks like a tragedy from one angle can also be seen to have positive byproducts. So I think we'll just finish this paragraph. As you become more and more familiar with this approach, you will gradually gain greater mastery to the point at which you may be able to catch yourself before the emotion even arises. By becoming aware of how feelings such as anger, irritation, or annoyance usually arise in you, you can learn to recognize what triggers them and can therefore arm yourself against them by bringing awareness to bear earlier in the process. Eventually, through practice, you can desensitize yourself to the triggers themselves by not allowing an element of projection to distort your interpretation of events. This final stage can be very difficult, but if you can achieve it, it will also be tremendously liberating. For even when you encounter the stimulus, hostile words from another person, for instance, your awareness will guard you against instinctive interpretations which are clouded by exaggeration and projection, thereby enabling you to respond calmly and with discernment. Well, that's your homework, okay?
And what's the deadline? When do we have to turn the papers in?
No deadline.
No
You just
deadline.
keep on doing it. Forever and ever, amen.
Ongoing process.
Ongoing.
You never stop learning.
Well, yes, we have to satisfy the teacher here.
He's your teacher and you're his teacher.
He is my teacher, and so
Patience.
patience.
These birds.
We're supposed to view everyone as a teacher eventually, or potentially a teacher. Isn't that correct?
Everyone and every challenging situation can be viewed as a, yeah.
Well, there could be an annual or something, or a subset of whatever's going on with some hustler on the station that you can learn something from.
Sure,
A lot.
yes. Yes. So-
As a field of merit.
Person, a situation. So yes, I repeat, this is if we can really engage in this practice, I mean, after reading the Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble Three Jewels, really considering the 8 verses on training the mind, they possess all the ingredients for maintaining this process in our daily lives. Darren, any names?
Paul Lorenz.
Moritz, the founder of my firm, when I told his wife that I would ask the Sangha to recite the prayer and how it concludes, she said that he actually lived in a pure realm. He was really like a Luftmensch. She was a lighting designer who lived much of our New York environment and around the world, and it was an extraordinary soul.
Tom Adamski and Anita
Tom Adamski and Anita Chadwick. Okay. So we should remember them in the sutra, reciting the Sutra of the Recollection of the Noble Three Jewels. I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sambuddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He's completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of Nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He's crossed over the river. He's perfected all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavat, who arises in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The Holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent, its words are excellent, it is uncorrupted, it is completely perfect, it is completely pure, it completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavad, is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Yana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue. I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realm. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are wholly in the field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. I prostrate always to these three. Yeah, well, let's read the 8 verses on training the mind and really think about what we talked about tonight. With the determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings who surpass even wish-granting jewels, I will learn to hold them supremely dear. Whenever I associate with others, I will learn to think of myself as the lowest amongst all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings and those oppressed by strong misdeeds and sufferings, as if I had found a precious treasure difficult to find. When others out of jealousy treat me badly, with abuse, slander, and so on, I will learn to take all loss and offer the victory to them. The one whom I have benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly. I will learn to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, I will learn to offer to everyone, without exception, all help and happiness, directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my brothers. I will learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the state of the innate worldly concern, and by understanding all phenomena like illusions, be relieved from the bondage of attachment. Now the prayer for a swift return. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron robes. Guru Lobsang Tulam Dojachan, please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torture doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast waves of aspirational prayers, Lord of speech, the victor of Lobsang's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening. Yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you to seek the existence end, to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by Bodhicitta born by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings, and wish-fulfilling jewel. Return as the glory of Tibet. Magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Srimati Deva, and the ocean of Dharma protectors. May you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation of fresh green life.